My name is Eliza Quinn. If you've ever read a headline about a scandal-sunk executive gracefully exiting, chances are I ghost wrote the apology. I deal in disasters, corporate, personal, political, and I've spent the last decade building a reputation on cleaning other people's messes. But this story isn't about cleaning. It's about letting the dirt stay exactly where it falls, especially when someone tries to bury you in it. You might actually regret skipping this part, because what happened to me wasn't just a hostile takeover. It was a betrayal served cold with a smile. My father built a company from nothing. Every brick, every bolt, every long weekend I spent as a kid coloring beneath his desk while he argued about distribution rights on a flip phone. That company was part of my DNA, and then she came in. Vanessa Leclerc, his trusted co-founder, his friend apparently, his savior allegedly, the woman who held his hand when he collapsed, who took over to keep the ship steady, who locked me out of every board meeting while telling the press we were united. Spoiler: we weren't. She didn't just take the keys to the kingdom. She rewrote the locks, changed the guard, and then hung up a new nameplate with hers etched in gold. And everyone applauded. The board nodded. Our investors sighed in relief. Even a few of my own blood relatives said, "Well, maybe it's for the best. You're not really leadership material." That one stung. So before you sit back and listen, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the Final Revenge channel, but only if you really like what I have to say here. Now get in the mood to listen to this story, because it might be the ultimate sweet revenge. It started 6 months after my father's stroke. You shuffle into that boardroom like it still belongs to you. Shoulders back, lips tight, heels clicking just loud enough to remind them you're not there to take minutes. The agenda's already printed your names on it in italics. Eliza Quinn, strategic advisor, non-voting. Non-voting. As if they thought that would stop you. Vanessa sits at the head of the table mid-speech, talking about quarterly performance. She's polished as always, hair in that perfect news anchor wave smile just wide enough to disarm the less observant. But you've seen her real face. The one behind closed doors when the PR cameras are off, and her voice gets sharp like glass. She gestures toward your seat. You take it. Then, sit through an hour of corporate white noise. Mergers, branding initiatives, digital pivots. The usual. You don't say a word. You nod at the right times. Take notes? Watch. That's the thing about being underestimated, it buys you time. Time to map their blind spots. Time to see who makes eye contact, who glances away, who's watching Vanessa with that look people wear right before jumping ship but too scared to admit it. You're not powerless. You're just off their radar. And that's exactly where you need to be. After the meeting, Vanessa corners you by the elevator, her tone sugary sweet. "Eliza, I hope you're feeling more at ease with the transition. You've been so quiet lately." You smile. "Just listening." She leans in. "Good. Listening is a strength." You nod, lips pressed together. Because if she'd been listening, really listening, she'd have heard the whisper behind your silence. The one that says, "I'm still here." You don't show up the next day, or the one after. Instead, you clear your calendar, pour a glass of wine, and start digging. Not angrily, not chaotically, methodically. Your father may have trusted Vanessa, but you grew up learning how to spot a long con. Your bedtime stories were hostile acquisitions and IPOs that never made it off the whiteboard. And Vanessa, she was the kind of woman who smiled like a CEO and played chess like a cat. One paw at a time, casual destruction. You start with the company filings, the public ones first. Then you ease into the side channels, vendor audits, hiring patterns, press releases with oddly delayed timestamps. It doesn't take long to find the rot. Vanessa's new charity arm, launched in honor of your father's values, has been collecting six-figure donations since January. But the receipts, they're funny, not illegal, not yet, but off. Contributions from companies that don't exist. Donors that repeat with name variations. Corporate giving that looks suspiciously like money laundering light. You highlight, print, tab. Then comes the fun part. An old intern pings you. He now works at a compliance firm and accidentally ran across some discrepancies. He's got a thumb drive. And a grudge. Vanessa once called him just decor for the diversity report. You meet at a cafe just far enough out of town to feel anonymous. He slides the drive across the table like it's a spy movie. You pay for his coffee and say, "You never gave me anything." He smiles. "I don't even know your name." You return to your apartment, pull out your old consulting brief templates, and start building what will eventually be known in some circles as the quiet bomb. No one hears it drop. Not yet. But the fuse is lit. Meanwhile, Vanessa's on a podcast talking about modern leadership as legacy. You sip tea and tag the audio file. Delusional. Empathy. Because while she's basking in press light, you're sharpening shadows. And they don't know it yet. But the girl they iced out. She just flipped the first domino. You go quiet on purpose. No emails. No calls. You show up to the office twice a week. Nod politely, sit in the non-voting corner and sip your coffee with monk-like calm. Meanwhile, your wall at home becomes a storyboard strings, timelines, screenshots. You're not collecting revenge. You're collecting patterns. Vanessa's a creature of rhythm. She repeats behavior, controls narratives, stages visibility. Every month, like clockwork, she makes a big gesture. A corporate donation, a press feature, a gala invite to honor Richard Quinn's legacy. Your father. She keeps saying his name like she earned it. So you start showing up at those events. Quietly, elegantly. Smile like a ghost she forgot to bury. She hugs you too hard every time. Isn't it wonderful what we're building together? You nod. Inspiring. She never asks what you've been working on. She assumes the silence means surrender. You send yourself her press clippings. Highlight inconsistencies. Pull quotes. Track which board members appear beside her, and when they start disappearing from public mentions. One day, a director your father's old golf buddy texts you. "You still have that folder you mentioned." You reply, "It's not a folder anymore. It's a library." Then, at a wine tasting she hosts to support female entrepreneurs, Vanessa gives a toast. You're standing at the back beside the wine rack, watching her pose for photos in front of a branded backdrop. She doesn't see you snap a photo of her with a man who's definitely not her chief donor, though that's how she'll list him later. Later that night, you post the photo to a new burner account on LinkedIn. No caption. Just tags. Just location. The post gets 300 views in 12 minutes. You shut your laptop and smile. Because while she thinks she's ascending, you're tightening the lens. And soon the image will focus. She forgot what you really do. While Vanessa's busy curating her benevolent disruptor aesthetic on Instagram, you're doing what you've always done. Managing crisis reputations from the shadows. Except this time, you're not cleaning anything up. You're building the mess. At night, your apartment glows with spreadsheets, burner emails, and audio transcriptions. You haven't worked this hard since that pharmaceutical CEO faked a data breach to cover insider trading, and even then you were on cleanup. Now you're the storm. You find Vanessa's weak spot in a 5-minute interview on a local morning show. She jokes about breaking glass ceilings even if it cuts your feet. Clever line, slightly plagiarized. A writer, once said something similar in a now viral op-ed. You email her, "Thought you might like to see where your quote originated." Always good to cite sources. EQ, no signature. Just the article, the writer, the timestamp. You don't hear back. But 3 days later, Vanessa's post mysteriously disappears. A new one appears, carefully rewritten, less fire, more vague. You saved both versions. A few of your old media contacts reach out unprompted. Is it true what we're hearing about the LeClaire Fund? Do you know where the donations actually go? You answer none of them. Because timing is everything. Instead, you ping the former assistant again. Ask if she's ever signed an NDA. She has. You ask if she wants to break it. She does. You connect her with a pro bono legal contact who accidentally sends the NDA to the wrong inbox. The next day, she goes public carefully. An anonymous interview voice distorted, no names dropped. But it's clear who she means. She describes a woman who screams behind doors, controls charitable funds like petty cash, and once used company interns to run her Botox errands. You didn't write the piece, but you definitely outlined it. Vanessa tweets about misinformation and grace. You reply with a wink emoji, because you're just getting started. The thing about reputations, they don't explode. They unravel. By the time you release the second leak, a soft nudge about donor mislabeling Vanessa's publicist is already in damage control mode. You know the signs. They start using words like miscommunication and oversight. They change the website font. They swap a photo on the team page. A few old press links mysteriously redirect to 404 errors. You've seen it all before. What they don't know is that you screen recorded everything last month. At 3 a.m., you piece together a visual timeline, public changes versus private evidence, add music, light transitions, label every document, include dates, timestamps, and the most delicate kind of commentary, none. Let the receipts speak. You send it to a journalist anonymously. They publish a side-by-side breakdown the next morning. The article goes semi-viral in legal and nonprofit circles. Comments pile up. Quiet ones. The kind that sting more than rage. Wow, if this is true, it's worse than I thought. I used to admire her, not surprised. Saw the red flags. You don't reply to any of them. But you read them all. Vanessa releases a video statement. She's in a soft blouse, minimal makeup, a garden backdrop. Just a woman trying to do good aesthetic. You pause it halfway through and write down one sentence. Mistakes were made, but never with malice. You underline never, because that word, it's going to age badly, especially once the third leak drops a financial audit from one of her shelled nonprofit partnerships. You didn't hack it. You just convinced the right accountant that the truth deserved sunlight. It drops Friday morning. By Monday, her executive board holds an emergency call. You're not invited. But you don't need to be. You're already inside the narrative. And now, it belongs to you. It starts as a rumor, whispers on investor calls, private Slack messages in leadership threads, a few clients requesting clarity before renewing contracts. But you know better. Rumors are the smoke, and you already lit the fire. By midweek, a director quietly resigns. Another removes Vanessa's name from their LinkedIn endorsements. A prominent consultant tweets, "Transparency isn't just a value, it's a liability test." No tags, but the subtext, loud. Meanwhile, Vanessa hosts a Women in Tech panel downtown. You RSVP anonymously show up in the back row and listen as she speaks about honor in leadership. She doesn't see you, but her assistant does. The woman flinches like she's seen a ghost, which in a way she has. You leave before the Q&A. That night, you get a tip from an old IT guy used to do freelance for the company. He says, you might want to check the server metadata on those donor files. Some edits were done off hours. Different user. He sends the logs. They show a deliberate pattern of edits after Vanessa's final approvals. Meaning, she knew, and she touched the data herself. You forward it to the journalist from the second article. No commentary, no context, just the raw truth. They run with it. The next article doesn't hedge. CEO Vanessa Leclerc linked to donor irregularities. New data suggests direct involvement. The fallout is immediate. A statement from the company. An emergency board vote. A tweet that Vanessa will be stepping away temporarily. She calls it a sabbatical. You call it the first domino falling in real time. You close your laptop, pour another glass of wine, and circle one last date on your calendar. The day you plan to return, not as an advisor, as the daughter of Richard Quinn, and the woman who took back the company one silent move at a time. Vanessa smiles at you in the boardroom like nothing happened. Like the headlines weren't hers. Like the word sabbatical hasn't become a punchline in 3 different industry blogs. You walk in calm, sharp blazer subtle watch. Every movement curated but not performative. You sit in the non-voting seat again. She starts the meeting with a little joke. Well, we've all had an exciting few weeks. A few chuckles. Mostly awkward. You don't laugh. Just nod. Because this isn't about public perception anymore. It's about control. And the funny thing is, Vanessa still thinks she has it. After the meeting, she pulls you aside. We should catch up, she says. There's been a lot of noise. I'd love your thoughts. You tilt your head, smile like you've rehearsed it. I'd love that too. You meet the next day. Neutral ground. Her favorite wine bar. She orders something French. You ask for still water. She talks first. How misunderstood she is. How deeply she respects your father's legacy. How these recent developments have shaken her. Then she leans in. I think we need to show unity, Eliza. Optics matter. Maybe we even do a joint statement. You take a sip, eyes locked. You mean the kind of statement that makes people forget everything. She smiles. Exactly. You set down your glass, then slide a manila folder across the table. Inside, a printed spreadsheet of donor edits, server metadata, the names of 3 board members now requesting a vote. She flips through it with trembling fingers. I'm offering you something better than optics, you say. Her eyes flick to yours. I'm offering you an exit. Silence. Then, what do you want? You lean back. I want the seat. I want my father's company back. And I want your resignation on my desk, clean signed and dated by Friday. She swallows hard. You'll ruin me. You smile. I haven't even started. She doesn't believe you'll go through with it. Not at first. Because women like Vanessa build empires on charm, recover from scandal with lighting and lipstick, and survive by rewriting the narrative faster than anyone else can follow. But what she's forgotten is that your weapon isn't noise. It's evidence. And you've got enough of it to script her downfall in 5 acts with footnotes. By Thursday, you receive her draft resignation email. It's full of excuses, phrases like, time to reflect, stepping back to prioritize vision, undeniable pride in what we built. You reply with 1 word, unacceptable. Then send her a rewritten version. No fluff, no denial. Just the truth spun in a way that looks graceful to the public, but screams guilty to those who know where to look. She doesn't reply. But the next morning your inbox pings. Her signature's at the bottom. You forward it to the board chair with a subject line. Effective immediately. The internal announcement hits at noon. By 1 it leaks. By 4, Leclerc resigns trends locally. 1 tweet nails the tone. She built an empire. Forgot who knew where the bodies were buried. You don't tweet. You just open the window. Let the late afternoon breeze spill into your office and exhale. You don't feel joy. You feel justice. That night, you return to your father's old office. No one stops you. You flip on the desk lamp. Same model he used. Warm glow over dark wood. There's a photo still on the shelf, him you a younger board at some long-forgotten holiday party. You pick it up. He looks proud. So do you. And now, finally, this office is yours. Not stolen. Not gifted. The house she left behind is a mess. Emails unanswered. Budgets misaligned. Staff morale somewhere between iced over and quietly quitting. But you don't flinch. You've handled worse. In fact, this is the easy part. The first week as acting CEO is all closed doors and open spreadsheets. You listen more than you speak. You meet with department heads, not PR teams. You ask questions Vanessa never bothered to. What's not working? What would you fix if you could? They hesitate at first, then tumble over each other to answer. Turns out Vanessa ran the company like a stage production, polished on the surface, cracked beneath. Whole departments were holding things together with post-it notes and unpaid overtime. You start by approving 2 overdue promotions. Quiet ones. No fanfare. Just proper recognition. Word spreads like wildfire. By the second week, you call a full staff meeting. Not in the boardroom. In the common lounge, same room your dad used for town halls. You stand there, not behind a podium, but next to the whiteboard. No suite. Just a blazer and jeans. Real. I'm not here to perform, you say. I'm here to repair. They nod. Some smile. One claps, then looks embarrassed. You don't need applause. You need belief. And you're getting it, 1 staffer at a time. That night, you send out the first executive memo, not press release material. Just the truth. We're rebuilding. With clarity, with transparency, and with the values Richard Quinn stood for. You hit send, close your laptop, and exhale. The headlines still swirl. The tabloids still chew on Vanessa's fall. But in this office, you're building something real again. You didn't just win. You reclaimed a legacy. And it fits. Like it always should have. The call comes mid-morning. Blocked number. You already know who it is. Hi, Eliza, Vanessa says like nothing ever happened. Her voice is sugar-laced fatigue. Practiced vulnerability. I just wanted to talk. Clear the air. You lean back in your chair. You mean damage control. A pause. No, I mean closure. She starts talking about optics, media fatigue, how the story will blow over. She suggests a joint panel appearance, a podcast maybe. You smile at the thought of her trying to pivot her downfall into a comeback tour. Eliza. She sighs. This isn't good for either of us. You glance at the calendar. You've got 10 minutes before your team meeting. I already have closure, you say. It's filed under resignation. Accepted. Ugh. She tries again. We both know this was more complicated than the media made it. You cut in, voice calm but cold. You tried to erase my father's name from the company he built. You wore his legacy like a designer coat. And when you thought no one was watching, you gutted it from the inside. Silence. You continue. I gave you the chance to walk away with dignity. You took it. That's more mercy than most would have offered. She exhales, sharp, wounded. This isn't over, she whispers. You smile. For you, maybe not. But I'm busy. Thanks for calling. You hang up. That afternoon, you finally move your things into the CEO office. No ceremony. Just a cardboard box and a firm decision not to keep anything of hers. The desk is empty now, except for a single sticky note you leave on the drawer. It says, I wasn't quiet. You were just loud enough to miss the silence. There's a kind of power in silence. Not the absence of noise, but the pause before it hits. You see it in the boardroom now, every time you walk in and people stop mid-sentence. They listen when you speak, not because you demand it, because they've seen what you do when underestimated. You don't need to raise your voice. Your work raises it for you. One of the board members, a longtime fence-sitter who once told you to let Vanessa lead for optics, asks to meet. You agree. Over coffee he fumbles, compliments your grace under pressure, admits he misjudged you, says if he'd known what you were capable of. You interrupt him with a smile. You did know. You just didn't think I'd use it. He laughs awkwardly, stirs his coffee. So what now? You answer honestly. We clean up what she left behind. We invest in what matters. And we make sure no one ever uses my father's name like that again. He nods. By the end of the week, you've restructured the advisory board, reinstated several team leaders Vanessa axed, and launched a review of all the charitable partnerships. You issue one final internal memo. We're done reacting. Now we rebuild. No leaks. No scandals. Just steady hands and clear eyes. Outside, the press has moved on onto newer collapses, newer villains. But inside these walls, people talk. Not about Vanessa. About you. Eliza's not what I expected, one says. She doesn't bluff. Another replies. Your reputation doesn't need fireworks. It needs consistency. And with every decision you make, the shadow she cast fades just a little more. Because you didn't just survive Vanessa. You replaced her with something better. And for the first time in a long time, you sleep soundly. Because silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. You find her resignation letter again, buried in your email archive. It's still perfect. No grandstanding, no denial. Just enough polish to keep her followers guessing, just enough emptiness to say everything without saying anything. You wrote it, and she signed it. Sometimes you open it just to remind yourself what power looks like in a single paragraph. But today you don't dwell. Today you're editing another letter. Your own. It's a speech, technically. For the upcoming Founders' Day event, a company tradition. Your father started back when the team could still fit in a single conference room. This year it's yours to host. You reread your words out loud just once late at night. Then smile. It's not flashy. It's not about Vanessa. It's about the people who stayed. The ones who rebuilt. The ones who saw you step in without fireworks or headlines and simply deliver. The night of the event, the room is packed. Employees, stakeholders, even a few board members you once considered adversaries. You step up to the mic. Lights dim. The room hushes. I stand here not because I demanded it, you say, but because I was ready when the silence came. A beat. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to burn it down. I just needed to be exact. No one claps yet. They just absorb it. Then the applause starts low at first, then rising. Not wild, not performative, but real. You step off the stage, heart quiet, hands steady. One of the junior analysts, barely 24, probably terrified half the time, approaches you after. She says, "You don't talk like most execs." You smile. That's because I listen like someone who's been ignored. She nods, eyes wide. Thank you. You don't say you're welcome. You just nod back. Because now they know. Silence was never surrender. It was strategy. Some scars don't show up on financial reports, but you see them in every backlogged project, every forgotten initiative, every brilliant employee who learned to stay quiet to survive Vanessa's reign. So you start your own quiet revolution. You launch a program called Reclaim, part internal grant, part open door submission box. The pitch is simple. Got a good idea that was ignored during the old leadership. Bring it. We'll listen. And they do. At first it's small. One proposal. Then 3. Then 9. Then your inbox explodes. From warehouse logistics to mental health initiatives, people pitch solutions they've been silently workshopping during late shifts and ignored meetings. You read everyone. You approve more than half. In 3 months, productivity ticks upward. Morale follows. Even the HR director, who once referred to your role as symbolic, starts openly praising the new energy. At lunch, you overhear 2 junior staffers talking. I used to feel invisible here. Yeah, but now, she sees everything. You do. You always have. The ghost of Vanessa still lingers in small ways. A misaligned strategy. DACA CEO, quote, misattributed in a press release, an old wine bottle labeled visionary leader still sitting in the board lounge. You don't rage. You remove it quietly and replace it with something better. A framed quote from your father. Success is listening to the person no one else hears. You don't host a ceremony. You don't need applause. Because every clean line in the budget, every thank you email from an employee you barely remember meeting, every slow but steady uptick in internal surveys. That's your proof. She tried to erase your father's company. You didn't just bring it back. You made it honest. And honestly, that's the deepest cut of all. The article drops without warning. Not a takedown, not a tabloid piece. A full-page profile in Business Current titled, "The Strategist Who Stayed Quiet and Won Everything." You didn't agree to it. You didn't even know it was coming. Turns out one of the junior editors had been tracking your moves for months, quietly, respectfully. She compiled board minutes, investor shifts, leadership restructuring. It's flattering. It's fair. And it's surprisingly emotional. You read it alone late at night, feet tucked under you on the couch. Your dad used to fall asleep on after long strategy meetings. The article ends with a line that sits on your chest. She never raised her voice. She didn't need to. You close your laptop, breathe. You never wanted headlines. You wanted balance. And now, you have it. Later that week, you get a handwritten letter. The envelope is thick, the cursive old school. It's from one of your father's retired partners, someone who hadn't spoken to you since Vanessa's takeover. Inside, just 4 words. He'd be proud, truly. You stare at the ink for a long time before folding it back into the envelope. That night, you walk the halls of the office one more time before closing. It's quiet, a good kind of quiet, not absence, presence, the sound of things falling back into place. You peek into the conference room. There's a meeting scheduled there tomorrow, some fresh-faced exec pitching a new mentorship initiative. They'll do great, because you made space for people like them. You turn off the lights, lock the door behind you, and step into the night air with a quiet smile. They took your father's company. You took it back, and you never even had to raise your voice. The office buzzes now, but with a different energy. No more fake grins in elevators, no more whispered panic in supply closets. Just steady rhythms, meetings that end on time, feedback that actually goes somewhere, laughter that doesn't feel like defense. You step into the boardroom for the quarterly review. Everyone's early. They stand when you enter, not out of formality, out of respect. You nod, take your seat at the head of the table, and glance around. The new CFO is sharp but humble. The comms director no longer flinches at press inquiries. HR runs smoother than ever. Even the company lawyer jokes now. You guide them through the numbers, solid, honest, growing. But the real report is in the people. No churn. Minimal burnout. Department heads are mentoring interns. Teams volunteer on weekends. The company has a soul again. Someone asks what's next. You pause, not because you don't know, Because this is the moment your father dreamed of his company not as a machine, but a heartbeat. You smile. We stay consistent. We keep listening. And when the next Vanessa shows up, and they always do, we'll be ready. They nod some smiling knowingly. Because this time they've seen what quiet strength looks like. You return to your office. Same warm light. Same photograph. You press your hand gently to the desk. Then sit, breathe, and exhale everything you've carried. All the silence. All the strategy. All the weight of being underestimated. Gone. And in its place, power. Soft. Steady. Real. You don't need applause. You don't need a parade. You already got what you came for. And when someone else one day asks, how did she survive all that? They'll answer, she didn't just survive. She led. Word count. 1 300-word summary. You may have thought this was just a story about revenge. About a woman wronged, cut out of the company her father built, replaced by a shiny name with sharper elbows and 1,000 fake smiles. But this isn't just about Vanessa. It's about Eliza Quinn. About what happens when you mistake silence for surrender. When you assume a quiet woman can't shatter a legacy with nothing more than truth time and a plan. It wasn't rage that won. It was reason, not chaos. Precision. Eliza didn't need to scream. She didn't need a spotlight. She needed receipts, timing, and a memory like iron. And when it all came down, when Vanessa finally saw what a real strategist looks like, there wasn't a single voice raised. Only the sound of someone stepping into the power that was always hers. She took the company back. She took the future forward. And in the end, she didn't take revenge out of hatred. She took it because someone needed to show what quiet justice can really look like. So if you ever find yourself underestimated, remember Eliza Quinn. She's not just a name. She's the last whisper before the fall.